Hello, this is TechMan88, and I've got a new type of spruce tree farm for growing the 2x2 trees. So if you really hate crafting bone meal, this might be an option to you. And it's developed for 1.13.1 or 0.2. And so yeah, there's not a lot of development in the tree farm business, but I wanted to make a new one that's just much simpler to build. So the basic concept it uses is it blows up the TNT while it pushes over a section of logs. And the TNT is positioned like right here, and it's only going to blow up certain numbers of logs, like certain logs. And it's going to leave this nice clean drop area, so you're not going to lose a single item. I think this is roughly 100% efficient. I haven't actually seen a single loss of a single item, so it's hard to say for sure how many 999% or whatever. Up here, these are the TNT aligners. So these TNT dupers and aligners, they're just going to push over the TNT onto this block. That's going to stop it and let it lose all its momentum. Then this piston's going to push it off after the certain amount of time just to get it to drop in the right spot. So those worked out really nicely with the 12 game ticks, or 12 redstone ticks between explosions. And the reason for the 12 redstone ticks is just to give the items a chance to drop down before the next explosion goes off. Another nice thing about using this kind of design is that you can grow the entire height of the tree. I think they grow up to like 30 blocks. So yeah, you can get just a bit more logs from it with a design like this. Back here, these are the double piston extenders. I actually designed these just for this farm. I'm not sure how original they are, but they're a lot simpler, and they don't break, basically. That's why I like them. I hate components that break. So I'll go in here and show the whole sequence of stuff going on. So first it's going to clear out the logs from the tree, and then once those are clear, it's going to do the leaf crushing. So by clearing out the logs first, it gives the saplings basically a place to fall down. And this, I think, is a pretty good improvement over a lot of other farms where like you have the leaf crushers and the double piston extenders for the logs interacting with each other where they have to be synchronized. I won't get into that, but yeah, this is quite a lot simpler for what it does. It's just slower. Not even that slow. I think probably 9.5 game ticks for the entire sequence. Another pretty nice thing that just worked out is that this fits entirely in a single chunk. I don't think any other spruce tree can possibly compete with that, just because they need all the blast chamber stuff over here, wither skeleton stuff. So I have some of the stats written down here. It's about 26.5 thousand logs per hour, and basically any tree farm like this is going to be overkill. That's about 15 shulker boxes per hour. It uses about 4.1 bone meal per tree and gets about 80 logs per tree, so that's about 20 logs per bone meal. Then 4.1 saplings per tree is what I've measured, and of course that's just barely enough to keep this going, but that's fine. Even if you run out, you'll probably have more wood than you'll ever need to use. Yeah, hard to break the double piston extenders, which is really nice. Actually, I don't even think you can break them. I think if you send the right pulse, they'll be fixed. So that's really nice if you're new to tree farm. Yeah, I think it works in 112 and 114, but I don't know about the sapling drop rate. That could be a slight problem. But I think at least the general concept should work. And of course it's synchronized. So like the saplings are growing at the same time that the TNT is dropping. And that made a lot of stuff a lot simpler. So all in all, I think this is a pretty nice farm, and I think I'm going to build it in survival. So I think the 2x2 spruce trees actually got a little bit easier in 1.13. I think that a few more leaves grow down here, like you can see them coming down below the machine, even though the saplings are way up here. So that may have made it a little bit easier. I didn't test this at all, but just to know if you build this farm. But the main reason that this runs on a fixed clock, it's actually not for simplicity. It's actually because it's launching the TNT it needs 80 game ticks for the TNT to fully explode. So it's like when it's trying to grow the tree, it's actually launching the TNT to destroy the logs that'll come out due to that tree. So the positioning of the TNT is really vital for this to work, and it just turned out to be pretty easy. So I just drop it like in this position right here, and the Obsidian blocks it from blowing up any of the logs back here. So it's always going to do like a 2x2 chunk when it does the explosion. It pushes once out first, and then the second time is when the TNT explodes. So the main cause of loss on one of these blast chambers is items landing on like a log poking out here, and they get destroyed by the next TNT cycle. But that's not going to be a problem at all with this design, because it's always going to have the items will always have a straight shot directly down into the water stream. So this over here is a section of the leaf crushers, and I've just taken out a couple blocks so you can see the observers in here. So it's just kind of like that. It's really quite simple. There are much more complicated leaf crushers, but one thing I really like about this one is that if you accidentally give a short pulse like this, and a bunch of pistons end up in the wrong spot, you can just give another long pulse after that, and everything will fix itself. And I really don't like designs where you get something that you can't fix easily, because I tend to screw up and send wrong pulse links and don't check stuff enough. So I always try to design with this feature. So this over here is the double piston extender for the tree pusher, and I've just got this configured for 7 ticks. And you can see the design, it's pretty simple again, and it also has that property, like if I send a pulse that's too short and it gets kind of screwed up like this, I can just send the correct pulse length and it will fix itself. And see, I have this 7 tick delay here, and I also have a matching 7 tick delay here, and that's just how you need to do it to work. If I change that to an 8 tick, you can see that there's kind of an extra push there if you watch carefully. So yeah, if you send a pulse length that's too long, it's not going to quite synchronize with the TNT explosion, and you're not going to get the really good drop rate. So on this double piston extender that I developed, there's a way to basically do all the pistons at the same time, and I'm just using some slimestone back here to do that. And I could actually get the pulse length exactly right. It's 6.5 redstone ticks. So I plan to use this for a future version that's going to be much faster, I hope. But that's just going to be kind of a fun project. This farm over here at 26,000 logs per hour, that's just really fast. I think it fills like 15 shulker boxes in an hour, which is way faster than you could ever use the logs. So this right here is one way to develop one of these blast patterns for TNT, figure out exactly where you need to blow it up so that it only blows up the blocks that you want. And yeah, slime actually has the same blast resistance and properties as a moving block, the block 36 as people call them. And yeah, there's a misconception with this that moving blocks are treated exactly like air. That's incorrect. They're treated exactly like slime, which have the 0 blast resistance. I did a video a long time ago where I showed why this is true, and I'll link that in the description. So the way you actually use this farm is first you want to have the auto-place saplings off, which of course you wouldn't have in survival. The way you get in is you just click these minecarts. The way you get out is you just click on that minecart and left shift to get out. So now I will flip it on and then jump in this minecart, and now it's on. Now I'll just use not a hotkey script to place the saplings. So it's pretty much like any tree farm like this. Just sit here and do this for a long time. And I found that I can plant probably about 200 trees before the game really lags out. Like if I pressed Shift and F3, then I can bring this pie chart up, and that shows like this tick over here taking up more and more time. So that's just about it on running the farm. And down here, sorry, let me turn it off before I show the next part. So flip it off like that. Might take a second. Might get pushed around by pistons as well. Yeah, so the dropper with the saplings is over here. Then there's also this huge chest full of saplings. You really want to start out with a lot of saplings. This should drop 4.1 saplings in 1.13. But you want a pretty large supply just to make sure you don't run out at some point. And I'll go over here. Yeah, that's the saplings chest. I've got a couple other hoppers down here. This is for another item counter that I did to count the saplings that I get. But yeah, this configuration is how you have it for just normal running. Then if you wanted to test the saplings, you would put a hopper there, and you would also want to clear out all these droppers of saplings before you tested that. But you shouldn't need to do this. So anyway, I'll hook it back up the right way, like that. Oh, and over here there's a portal. If you go through this portal, it will reset the lag. It's kind of like disconnecting and reconnecting. Like there's something in the client that really lags out, and I'll go over that in a while. So I did a whole bunch more testing to try and figure out what causes lag after some time running this farm. And it only seems to happen after like 100 trees. And what I have eliminated is it's not sound. I've just turned off the sound completely. I've tried blocking out the skylight from here and eliminating all the lights. So I've eliminated light updates. I've eliminated Optifine. I've tried it with Optifine and without Optifine, and that makes no difference at all. The only clue I really have, you can't quite see it yet, but when I turn on this profiling graph, you can notice the frame rate goes down. Like here, my frame rate's 29, but then when I turn on that pie graph, you can see my frame rate goes way down to like 20. And the longer I run this, the lower the frame rate's going to get. And eventually it'll go down to 1 frame per second. And there are 2 ways I found to fix this. One of them, you can just quit the game, or just close your world and reload it, or disconnect from a server and come back. And another way you can fix it is just by going into another portal and then coming back. Another thing about this is that when I go 128 blocks away, just basically unload the chunks, they're still in my spawn chunks, so they're still going to run. You can see the ticks is still going up. But yeah, when I come out here, I can AFK as long as I want, and it's not going to cause a problem. So my theory on what the lag is actually from, and a lot of people have run into this problem before, like when you run one of these more complicated farms, there's a lot of pistons, and my guess is that the client is doing kind of a simulation. It has its own tick thing, like you can see in this graph. It's doing some sort of tick. I think that's to move back and forth the pistons, and so you can so they'll display smoothly. They won't just jump to from one to another. And that's run on the client side. Like even if you're running a single player world, it still runs a internal server, and you still have the client side doing some of this stuff. So that's my theory on the problem, and maybe somebody who really knows the Minecraft code can try and fix that. So now we'll go over the redstone, which is really not that complicated. Basically, it's a clock that's pretty long. I don't know how many ticks, probably like 90 or 95. So like the first thing it's going to do is it's going to place down the bone meal, dispense the bone meal. That's this observer pointing up into this this chain, a dropper and dispenser. And back here, I just have a command block to fill up this hopper right here with bone meal, so it'll never run out. Yeah, so the first thing it does, of course, is the bone meal, and then after that, this is going to generate a 12 game tick or 12 redstone tick pulse, and that's going to be sent up into all this stuff up here, the double piston extenders and the leaf crushers. Another thing feeding off that is this this little cooldown clock right here, which is going to put a signal into these 2 blocks, which is going to turn off these hoppers right here, and these hoppers sit below the minecart, so that gives the player just a chance to pick up the saplings. It may not be entirely necessary. So yeah, that's basically it. I don't usually like clocks like this where it's like you could accidentally screw it up by sending another signal, because it's just like one signal getting passed through the whole clock. But it worked out. Over here, this is the off and on switch right here, and it's going to push forward this piston, and it's going to activate this observer here, and that's just going to start out the sequence. And then there's also this solid block right here that's pushed forward so that the pulse can get fed back through, so it's going to be an infinite loop. Yeah, I've gone over the double piston extender redstone a little bit before, but then up here, this is the thing that activates the TNT, and that's actually just fed directly off of this double piston extender signal. And the reason that I can do this is just because this is on a fixed clock. So I know that some amount of time after this goes off, then I can launch the TNT. So actually, when you turn it on for the first time, it's going to push out twice, and I'll just turn that off and wait for it to finish. And yeah, extra TNT is going to come down here with no tree growth. Okay, so that should be off. Yeah, nothing is going back there. And by the way, when you turn this on, sometimes it won't turn on. That I won't get into why. It's quasi-connectivity stuff I didn't want to bother solving. But yeah, if you don't hear the clicking when you turn it on, then just turn it on again. But this is what I was talking about, where more logs will come out just because that TNT has such a long delay after everything. But that's not a problem at all. It all blows up just fine. And I've also found that this recovers completely fine. If the logs end up way out at the push limit, it's still going to blow them up eventually. Over here, I've just got a lot of the item counter math and stuff like that. So like this button over here, this is going to turn it on, and then I can reset the rates over here. And then I've got this. This is the main item counter for the spruce logs. So there's a command block right here. It's just going to teleport all the items over into this, on top of this hopper. They're going to get picked up, and then the math here, this is just going to show me get a count of the items. And then over here, this is the rate math and like the tick increment, stuff like that. It's not that complicated. So this here is El Mango's design on his economic 2x2 spruce tree farm. It definitely looks a lot nicer, but it has a dependency between the leaf crushers. Like you see the observers come out here. That's actually part of the double piston extender back here. So I might be able to run this. It seems to be able to maybe run a couple times without lagging out, but and the reason it's not pushing right now is because it's operating this whole thing, rearranging the logs, putting them into a standard blast chamber over here, which I'm sure you've seen already. But yeah, it means that there's a very long wait time between when it can push the trees. I'll try and catch the piston sequence. So in summary, there's two main reasons I wouldn't use this design by El Mango. One is just the complexity of the double piston extenders here, which seem to be unnecessary in 1.13 at least. And then also just this rearrangement of logs at high speeds. So I think I'm going to end the video here. I think I've covered basically every part of this farm. It's not even that complicated, but my video is already up to like 20 minutes, so I think that's a good time to end it. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this tree farm. I plan to probably release another video at some point where I improve the rates on this farm, and that's just for fun. But yeah, if you want a single chunk spruce tree farm with a pretty simple mechanism and pretty simple double piston extenders, I might consider building this in 1.13, and I would test this before you build it. And one other really important thing to note that I should have mentioned a lot earlier is that this is direction dependent. It's not because of any of the redstone, it's actually just because of the way spruce trees grow. They need a certain area on a certain side to actually grow, but you can probably look at another video to see that. So anyway, thank you for watching, and goodbye.